Well, I mean, I, for one, am totally hashtag team dongs and butts. So I would have been totally fine with seeing them.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I'm one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Ashley the Sports Führer Schlafly.
Hi, y'all.
And Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we've covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit us at shatthemovies.com and have a look. And at the end of each podcast, we will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, please subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and Watchmen. Also, Ash and I are currently doing Lovecraft Country with just a few weeks left, so do check that out. If you haven't already, go to Lovecraft Country from Shat on Entertainment. Subscribe to that. It's fantastic. You can find information on all of our TV series at shatontv.com. Finally, to hang out with us live all week long, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatthemovies.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, and end each week with a big Shappy Hour cocktail party. Last week, we did Moscow Mules. They were fantastic. We'd love to share a drink with you. Now, all that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
So tonight's going to be a little bit different. We got a commission from one of our international listeners, Joe T., and he wanted to request the 1981 American sports war escape film. It's kind of an escape. And normally we have him write in a letter and then we read it. Joe was actually so kind that he left us a wonderful voicemail. And as I'm listening to it, I said, Joe's better than we are, and we've been doing this for thousands of hours. So Joe is going to tell you in his own words why he commissioned this movie. Let's hear it from Joe.
Good afternoon, chaps. A big hello from all your fans on this side of the Atlantic.
Yes.
And hello to Jason Isaacs. With the sad passing of the truly great Max von Sydow earlier this year, I thought it would be appropriate to commission a review from you guys. Obviously, with so many incredible films in von Sydow's back catalogue, we're really spoilt for choice. But the film for which I would like to commission a review is none other than the 1981 football classic Escape to Victory, which I believe was released in the United States simply as Victory. I should probably point out at this stage that what I, and the rest of the world, refer to as football, you may, incorrectly, know as soccer. Anyway, set during World War II and sort of loosely based very broadly on real events, Escape to Victory tells the story of a football team made up of Allied prisoners of war taking on a team of Germans in an exhibition match to be used for the purposes of Nazi propaganda. The cast includes tall, blonde European Max von Sydow playing a senior Nazi officer, and Sir Michael Caine leading a team of allies that includes such real-life football royalty as the England World Cup winning captain Bobby Moore, Brazilian Viagra ambassador Pele, and a number of players from the 1981 UEFA Cup winning Ipswich Town side. Sylvester Stallone is also in it for reasons that are admittedly never explained convincingly. Directed by none other than John Huston, with an absolutely cracking soundtrack by Bill Conti, this was a film that I would watch time and again throughout my childhood. My dad, my brothers, and anyone else would gather round to cheer on the Allies before heading down to the local field to meticulously reenact the passes, dribbles, rainbow flicks, and overhead kicks that we'd seen on show.
Rainbow flicks.
Though some may say it is a terrible, terrible film, it meant a lot to my family and me. And it also means a lot to many people in England, particularly now. When it's shown on British television, thousands of fans, well, at least dozens, still take to social media to provide a minute-by-minute text commentary of the film's final match. At its very heart, Escape to Victory raises one of the most important existential questions for every Englishman. What is more important, to gain freedom from pain, hunger and abuse, or to beat the Germans at football? I think we all know the answer. Its importance cannot be overstated. Thanks very much. Cheerio.
Well, I guess that's it. Thank you for joining Chat the Movies.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. I mean,
see you next week, everybody.
Perfect. Zero wipe. See you later, Joe. Thanks a lot.
Good job, Joe. Yeah.
What the fuck, guys? I hate the sound of my own voice now. I mean, I've never really been a fan of the way I sound on the podcast, but good God, he is amazing.
I'm embarrassed. I think we should just stop. Everybody, thank you for listening to Shat the Movies. This will be our last podcast. Yeah, this is it.
I mean, pacing, inflection, keeping the audio interesting, verbiage. I mean, Joe, you're a professional. I don't know what podcast you're doing, but I want to subscribe to it, man, and I really appreciate the commission. Well, Escape to Victory is a 1981 American sports war film directed by John Huston and starring Sylvester Stallone, Michael Caine, Max von Sydow, and Pele. The film is about Allied prisoners of war who are interned in a German prison camp during the Second World War who play an exhibition match of football against a German team. The film received great attention upon its theatrical release and starred countless professional footballers, but it only holds a 67% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. In 2019, a remake was announced that also will be titled Victory. Big D, Ash, we know about Joe's experience with Victory. Where were you the first time you saw Victory or heard about it, or what are your memories of it?
So unlike Joe, this was not a big family movie that we would sit around and then run down to the pitch and practice our rainbow drops or bicycle kicks and stuff like that. But I thought this escape movie was the one where Paul Newman rides these like little dirt bike and he jumps over like a barbed wire fence and gets caught. That was a very different escape movie. So I had never seen Escape to Victory prior to watching it for this review.
Yeah, I was today years old the first time I saw this. I had never actually heard of it before. But when I read the premise, I was like, okay, well, this sounds fun. And luckily, my parents were in town visiting this weekend. And my dad is a huge fan of both World War II movies and sports movies. So it was like, woo, like, perfect combination. And so I got to watch it with him, which was really nice. And I have to say, who doesn't love a young Sylvester Stallone? So it was pretty exciting to see him. And I'm really glad that this was commissioned because, like I said, no clue this one even existed.
Ash, Escape to Victory was serendipitous for me as well because this is the opening week of EPL. Arsenal just won a huge victory. Yes, it was over Fulham, but still, come on, you Gunners. I was raised on World Cup football. I am a diehard Arsenal fan and a Phoenix Rising season ticket holder. So I thought that I was a good representative for the international sport of football on the podcast, but I had never seen or heard of Victory before Joe commissioned it. In my defense, as he mentioned, you've got a lot of Ipswich people. You got some Brazilians in there. This movie is sorely lacking in any Arsenal players, so I'm mildly offended by that. But I had a good time, and it was a great appetizer for the season to come.
Yeah, and Gene, I just want to clarify. I do enjoy soccer. I was primarily a baseball fan, but lately soccer has gotten a grip on me. My wife is Brazilian, so I've gone to Maracanã in Rio de Janeiro and seen Flamengo against Fluminense. So it'll be interesting to hear Gene give his take on it, though, because I'm not up to the standard he is. But I do find soccer more engaging and entertaining than many American sports.
All right, with that, Big D, roll the trailer.
How long will it take? Well, you must realize it's my busy time. Everybody wants to escape in the good weather. In 1942, the Nazis thought they were sitting on top of the world, never suspecting that they could be toppled in one conflict, the most unusual battle of the war.
It has been decided that a German national team will play a combined team from the prisoners of war of the occupied territories.
That's crazy.
Okay, I'm ready to sign up.
Sign up, Hank.
And you ought to be exhibited in Paris like performing fleas.
What about me?
Get out of here.
A stacked game. The Third Reich's finest against a ragged bunch of prisoners of war. The Germans thought they had it made.
They couldn't run about for 90 minutes. They'd be chucking their guts up. Am I good or am I good? What's your name? You know my name. What's your name?
I decided to join the team.
The American? No.
You use that bloody American style again here and you'll be darned.
Look, you're playing English, I play American.
Can you do it with your mouth shut?
Hey, the mouth and the hands work together. It's a team.
This match is a propaganda stunt for the Germans. It's a wonderful opportunity for us. The Allied High Command called them crazy, and maybe they were.
We want you to contact the resistance for us and arrange the escape of the football team.
But I want to thank you all for your concern, but I'm really not planning on seeing Paris until after the war. Well, I'm an orphan. I have no parents, no money, I'm not married. I don't even have a pet. And anything I might say in my sleep to the contrary can't be held against me.
We don't want to be shot as a spy, do we?
No. I don't want to be shot as anything.
Victory, starring Sylvester Stallone, Michael Caine, Max von Sydow, and introducing Pele.
How'd you like to play football against the Germans?
Why not?
Now is the time for heroes. Victory. You've never seen anything like it.
A team of Allied prisoners of war, coached and led by English Captain John Colby, played by Sir Michael Caine, a professional footballer for West Ham before the war, agreed to play an exhibition match against a German team, only to find themselves involved in a German propaganda stunt. An American POW, Robert Hatch, played by Sylvester Stallone, nags the reluctant Colby into letting him on the team as the team's trainer. Hatch needs to be with the team to facilitate an upcoming escape attempt. So, guys, Joe mentioned in his beautifully read commission letter that this movie has Max von Sydow and it has Michael Caine, two giants of acting. And not all of the actors in the movie are as good as these two, but Von Sydow and Michael Caine have such incredible bearing and presence. I felt like when I was watching them on screen, I was like, oh, this is acting. Like they're in a class of their own. They were a pleasure to watch. Michael Caine, of course, for those youngsters out there, this is Alfred in the Nolan Batman series. He's in Cider House Rules, and he's in my favorite movie of all time, Inception. Victory, to me, proved that he can play literally any role fit for an Englishman. Like, I believe that he was from West Ham. I believed that he could be a football manager. And then, of course, you recognize Max von Sydow from Game of Thrones and The Exorcist and Dune. He is an equally talented actor. But the one thing that bothered me about his performance is I wanted something like a little more sinister. He's so fucking nice. Like, he made Colonel Klink look like Adolf Hitler himself.
Yeah, and so if you haven't seen this movie or haven't seen it in a while, the analogy I'm going to give is that Joe T reading his letter, that's Michael Caine. Okay, that's a Michael Caine performance. We on this podcast, we're Sylvester Stallone. We're not that good. Sly has made a career out of being ripped. His body, he's physically fit, Rocky, Rambo, all of those movies. He is this athletic beast. But when we see him running around the field, it's embarrassing. It's like he's a dad out there and he's never played competitive sports. How did this happen?
I don't think Sylvester Stallone is that bad of an actor. I mean, he's certainly better than like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hold on. Listen, both those guys are great. I think if one thing this podcast has revealed is that both those guys are magic on screen. There's a reason why they're huge names. But here's the thing with Stallone is he's great in Rocky because it's earnest. It's like he's just being himself. He's not too bright. He's not too flamboyant. He's just like a good dude. Simple jokes, you know, and a lot of heart. Heart is what he's all about. And here you got a character where he's supposed to be like sly. And unfortunately, the name doesn't fit.
But whether you like his acting or not, he looks fucking good in this movie, you guys. Like, I forgot how good looking young Stallone was, because he's got that little bitty tiny waist and he's got those huge broad shoulders and his shirt is just open enough. And somehow apparently he got to wax his chest still in the prisoner of war camp because he's completely hairless. But I think that normally these things are really gross, like this American machismo, but he's pretty hot here. But that Americanism really does stick out from this beginning, kind of being compared to Michael Caine and Max von Sydow. And I just had to keep asking, why is he the only American there? Like, how did that happen? Did they just accidentally put him with all of the Europeans? Was he with them one day? Like, did I miss completely that part of the movie as how he ended up the sole American amidst all of these Englishmen?
I think it's probably that his unit wanted him to just be gone. So they set him up, let him get captured. They're like, okay, listen, this is a safe place for him to be. He won't get killed. He'll get home, but we don't have to deal with him. And you said he looked hot with his chest waxed. That's because he's going to a day spa instead of a POW camp. How is it that bad? They've got chessboards. They're laying out in the grass. They're tanning. They have electronics to build like a small radio that fits inside of a book. They have cameras. They're making fake passports and IDs in a camp. This is supposed to be prisoners, right? So what's the rush? Why are you trying to get out of there so bad? It looks comfortable, looks fun. Yeah, maybe when the Eastern Europeans show up and you see what a labor camp actually looks like, at that point, I'd be like, guys, listen, fuck the escape part. Let's shut that down. Let's just ride this out in Club Med.
And that's pretty much what Michael Caine's saying. He's like, let's play some soccer, chill the fuck out, wait the war out.
Right. Well, and they're so clean. I mean, their shirts are like white. Like, even after rolling around on the dirt and all of that, I mean, I had to keep reminding myself that it is a prison camp run by Nazis, because I've never seen a prison camp during World War II portrayed in this way. And also the long shots of the camp, I mean, they just didn't work. I mean, I texted you guys and said that this, that the woods here, it looks like upstate New York, or like that they were in New England somewhere. It certainly didn't look like Germany. And I thought it was strange. Maybe it was a budget thing, but the outside of the barracks completely did not match the inside, like sets from the barracks, because you go from outside Nazi prison camp in upstate New York to being inside when they're making the passports, so that it looked like a leftover cabin from like Friday the 13th. Like, it looked like a summer camp log cabin and not any sort of barracks I have ever seen.
No, this is the backside of the Catskill Resort from Dirty Dancing, right, where they're staying. This is the other side. This is the one where people go in the summer where they can't leave, but still, it's not that bad.
And what's weird is how that is so different from the opening of the movie. Because the opening of the movie, you see a guy trying to escape, and the Germans just fucking machine gun him down. I'm like, oh shit. Like, these Germans are not fucking around. If you try to escape, they will straight up execute you. Wrong. Because right after that, the Red Cross shows up. They're like investigating, and the Germans are like, no. That was all a misunderstanding. Those guys were just getting a little cray-cray on Friday night. Like, we're all nice Germans. These Germans are getting laughed at in their own prison camp. The officers in their little Catskill cabin, they have electric light. They have to be told to turn their own lights off. They're like, okay, lights out, everyone. There's no like master switch to shut everybody's lights off. Everyone looks incredibly healthy. Like we're saying, Sylvester Stallone is ripped. Like, how is he keeping this weight on? And Ash, like you said, yeah, let's get the number of their laundry service, because these guys didn't come with multiple uniforms unless they're shipping those in for them as well. Like, sir, what are your measurements? Let us send a letter over to the British lines and get your uniform in. I got the feeling that the Allied presidents could literally just walk out if they wanted to.
Oh, but there was one major atrocity going on. The football team didn't have proper footwear. Did you see? Oh, I don't know that we can do this with our boots on. Maybe we can get proper shoes. It's terrible. It really is. That's their biggest complaint as they're lounging out on the grass. The way that the Nazis are portrayed after that opening scene, I would expect them to run into the barbed wire with Band-Aids and ice packs and like carry the people out and be like, we're sorry you got hurt. We're going to remove the barbed wire and put like a safe zone of padded walls so you won't get hurt. It was not realistic. But, as they're putting this team together and they're listing, all of their credentials, that guy's played here, that guy's played there, it made me think how different professional athletes are today from the way they were in the 40s. When World War II rolled around, All these major sports stars said, fuck my sport, I'm going to war. Stan Musial joined the Navy. Golfing great Bobby Jones served in the Air Force. Hank Greenberg, the Baseball Hall of Famer, he was the first ball player to register for the draft in 1940. He wasn't fucking around. He just said, hey, let's go. I'm going out there. You have Joe DiMaggio, the 13-time All-Star and 9 World Series champ. He formally requested combat duty. And they said, no, Joe, we can't put you in combat duty. And then you have Joe Louis. He was a member of the first segregated cavalry unit. Jackie Robinson, the first player for Major League Baseball who was African-American, was an officer in a tank unit. You know, you go down the line from Ted Williams, who was a Navy aviator and spent 2 years active duty even after World War II in Korea. He flew 39 combat missions. These guys gave up their prime for the greater good. Today, could you imagine any major professional star today making millions of dollars choosing to do something for the country or the better good than their sport?
I mean, there was like Pat Tillman and everyone shit their pants over it, right? That's like the last one I can think of. Which, by the way, Forkham Devils. But other than that, like, I can't think of anybody recently. And I'm sure people are going to write in and be like, my team has some guy that, you know, he's like the third place kicker or whatever, you know, for my football team. But point being that it was obviously, as you're saying, Big D, these aren't just any players. These were huge giants in their sports.
Yeah.
And this story of the German soldiers playing against, you know, Allied prisoners, if it seems far-fetched or familiar, there's a reason for both. So Victory was inspired by a true story about a legend, if that makes sense. So there's a legend called the Death Match, which was this match between the Germans and Dynamo Kiev, a Ukrainian team, were prisoners of war. It's not exactly straightforward. The legend goes that they played the game, Dynamo Kiev won, and the Germans executed them. What actually happened was there was a series of matches and Dynamo Kiev won them all, but it's not like the Germans just took them out and shot them. Instead, what happened is most of the players were sent into labor camps. Like we saw the players in this movie coming from the labor camps where they, of course, died because these labor camps were places where you were used as an asset, right? You were a resource just like anything else and you were used up, expended, and then disposed of. And I'm glad that Victory, although it was a silly, fun, goofy movie where the Nazis were not taken very seriously, they did illustrate that subhuman treatment of Eastern Europeans by showing these emaciated and tortured players that were recruited from those nations. I thought it was a good balance in the film to show that, yes, the war did have serious consequences and there were people who were treated differently. These guys are being treated well because they're English and because they're officers in the military versus Eastern Europeans who they literally considered animals.
I mean, I found myself thinking, don't the Germans learn? I know we thought, you know, World War I, they learned their lesson. World War II, no, they didn't really learn their lesson. They're going to set up a sports event as a propaganda opportunity. Don't they know what happened in the 33 Olympics when Hitler went out there and said, oh, this is going to be the spectacle. We're going to showcase the regime and the Aryan athlete superiority. So when Jesse Owens went over there, it was the big thing. It was Jesse Owens against the Aryan nation. And he made a fool of the Nazis and Adolf Hitler particularly. He won the first gold medal in the first event, the 100-meter dash. He followed it up when he beat the German champion, Lutz Long, in the long jump. And then he set a record in the 200-meter dash en route to getting 3 gold medals. Owen became the first American to win 4 gold medals in track and field in a single event. And the Germans looked like fools. And this was the first televised Summer Olympics. So the world saw it.
And Lutz Long lost in a game named after him. That is fucking embarrassing for the Germans.
Yeah.
Well, Colby's superior officers tried to convince Colby to use the match as an opportunity for an escape attempt, but Colby consistently refuses, fearing that such an attempt will only result in getting his players killed. Meanwhile, Hatch has been planning his unrelated escape attempt. He escapes the prison camp, travels to Paris, and finds the French resistance.
So back to the Nazis, who were complete and total idiots, right? There is no fucking oversight at this prison camp. They don't do a head count after the shower. They buy that horrible paper mache dummy that I guess they did during arts and crafts hour at this labor camp. They smoke cigarettes with the enemy.
Yeah.
They don't see this huge ass Stallone who's kicking up dirt clouds everywhere, running in the mud. latching himself onto the side of the car. I mean, he's massive. They don't see him. They're absolutely horrible at their jobs. And then to that end, how do they not execute people who show them this fake dummy and then laugh at them for not realizing that it's completely acceptable, that the Nazis are like, oh, ha ha ha, fun joke, right? Like, it truly is the friendliest portrayals of Nazis that I have ever seen. And it was really ridiculous and kind of funny, but also really kind of wrong too, considering how actually brutal the Nazis were in real life. I found myself going, like, this is not like a Jojo Rabbit thing where they're intentionally making fun of Hitler and making fun of the Nazis and doing it as satire. Like, in a way, I was kind of like, well, that's kind of fucked up, because it would have been nice if they had actually been, a bunch of bumbling idiots like this.
You know what's really fucked up is several times in this movie they keep alluding to the shower, like the escape is going to happen through the shower. And I'm like, okay, let's put the pieces together here. We got Sylvester Stallone, we got some really fucking hot soccer players with great bodies, and we got a shower scene coming up. We're going to see some butts. We're going to see some dicks. We wait all this time. You take us halfway through the fucking movie. No butts, no dicks. You've got all these incredible bodies, and for some reason, the damn German showers are too dark to see anything. No wonder people are fucking escaping. You have all the lights out in the one place where they can escape.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect place. It would be appropriate. Where else are you going to show full frontal nudity? It belongs here.
Yes.
And then Hatch goes into the shower with his pants on. The guards don't notice that? Come on. It's not like I want to see dongs and butts, but it would have made sense if the camera pan, we saw a couple in the shadows. Make it more realistic. Instead, when it's all like the lighting is like from the top of their thigh to their belly button, it took me out of the moment.
Well, I mean, I, for one, am totally #team dongs and butts. So I would have been totally fine with seeing them. But you're right, Jane. I mean, what the fuck is the point of showering in the dark? Like, you've got all this technology elsewhere, and you forgot to flip the master switch. Lights out were already going on, so the lights were out in the shower. I mean, it was absolutely bizarre. And I'm going, well, how do they see? How do they know when they're done? Like, then the guy doesn't even go in the room to check. And Stallone's just standing up there hanging on to like the fence part. Like, hey, I'm going to just wait it out. Ridiculous.
And what about this? Stallone goes in, he jumps up on the first shower head. Then he American Ninja Warrior shimmies down the whole pipes. Why didn't he just walk to the end, jump on that pipe, and climb right into his little like area? Instead, he's going to risk shimmying along the way with the pipes clanging.
Also, who thought he was the best guy to get out of there? Like, you're looking for candidates among all these soldiers to escape, and you go with Hatch, the one American. He's the biggest loudmouth out of the whole bunch. Yeah. He's making jokes that nobody thinks are funny, so he's got to be rubbing everybody the wrong way. He's getting in the face of authorities. Like, can I have my ball, sir? He's fucking ripped. Like, every German from Poland to Paris is going to have his eyes on Hatch. That's the guy you think is going to slip away unnoticed?
Well, I think you have the German incompetence is on show. As he makes his escape, we see this each step. He pretends like he's with that woman and child. He carries her luggage. I think he knows one or two sayings in French, but it's ludicrous. He gets to Paris. He's walking around alone at night, looking very guilty. He is the least likely person who would be able to complete this mission. But Ashley, what is up? What do you think of his accent? And did he say more than one or two things?
He said a couple of things. I agree with you. I don't know who thought Sylvester Stallone. That's like Arnold Schwarzenegger pretending to be French, right? Like, the two of them are just not going to work. And his accent, it's so bad. And he doesn't look French. But it shows us that the idiocy of the Nazis extends beyond the labor camp, because the guy at the train station is like, do you speak German? And he looks at me, he's like, no, parlez-vous français? Like, in a complete American accent. And the guy's like, oh, je vais. And then he says the word. It's not really funeral. It's more like a grief
burial,
place that he,
right?
Yeah. Like, and it means like, I'm going to a place where like, I'm going to celebrate my grief. Right. And so he's not even saying the right word. And the guy's like, oh yeah, you're clearly French. Go on, sir. And then the guy walks in. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. And when he's with that beautiful French woman, the way he says, merci, like he's the angry chef from The Little Mermaid, or parlez-vous anglais? I mean, it was gross. I haven't felt this annoyed in a movie review for this involving French since Ron Perlman in The City of Lost Children, because I had an issue with his accent as well. Both don't look capable of speaking French, and it coming out of their mouths. I didn't realize that French could ever sound ugly, but apparently it can. And it's a super bummer.
Well, you brought up the hot female resistance fighter. Did I completely miss that there was supposed to be some chemistry between them? That she's interested in him and, whoa, it's my son, not my husband. At the end, she acts like she really cared, like they had a relationship. I didn't get any of that.
I think that she has an emotional connection to everybody that she helps out, like in escaping. And so I kind of like that. They took her, and I expected, like, oh God, they left the two of these people alone. So to give everybody the scene here, Stallone meets up with the French resistance. Then they're all like, well, you could just stay here with this woman alone in her home. She's totally okay with that, strange American. They all leave. He's alone with her. And she's like, you can sleep in my son's room, basically. And yeah, you're expecting, I was like, oh, don't go there. Like, this is so unnecessary for her to, her husband died in the war. She's just going to make it with the first American who stays there. But I don't think she did. I think it was more of an emotional attachment, almost a motherly attachment to him, in the sense that she just cared about his plight and his well-being.
I'll be honest, Gene, I didn't get that. I got that she had the hots for his tiny waist and hot bod. That's what I took from it. But I like your explanation better. That would make me like it better for sure.
I mean, I think she had the best soliloquy in the entire film. So if you watch any part of this movie, fast forward to the woman whose name we can't remember and check out her scene. Once the resistance realized the game will be at Colombe Stadium, they plan the escape using a tunnel to the players' changing room. Another shower scene set up. They convince Hatch to let himself be recaptured so he can pass information along back to the prisoners. So Hatch is recaptured and put in solitary confinement. Colby tells the Germans that he needs Hatch on the team because Hatch is the backup goalkeeper and the starting keeper has a broken arm. Colby actually has to break the existing goalkeeper's arm because the Germans want proof of his injury before they will agree to let Hatch on the team.
So let me set this scene for those of you who haven't seen this movie. So Hatch finds out he has to be recaptured. Cue him being in a cage in a car. He gets driven into the camp. And as he's getting out, everybody's watching. And he makes this gesture toward his eyes with his hands. And it's like, nah, like with his hands. And I'm going, okay, he's just being silly. But apparently not. Because apparently the English officers knew exactly what Stallone was doing because they go, oh, he must know his gods. And he's making the hand signal for Mercury, which means the messenger of the gods, which means, he must have a message. I totally did not buy this, you guys. It was such a huge jump. And also, we've talked about how the Nazis are idiots. Apparently, the resistance is too, because you can't tell me that the only way to get a message to them is for this guy to be recaptured. You can't smuggle a letter in. I mean, they're getting equipment in to make a radio. They're getting equipment in to, take pictures and do a camera and make fake passports. You can't tell me that you can't throw a bottle or put it in a potato or something to get it over the fence. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, they know what's going on. Because, what if they shot him on sight? What if they execute him to make an example of him? It is an absolutely terrible plan.
Actually, I totally agree. I think the secret potato note, that would have worked great. I mean, that's used in all these movies, right? But Sly Hatch has been all just hot and bothered to get out. He's going to break out regardless. He doesn't care. He's going to get out. Now he gets out. He's passed on the message. They somehow convince him to go back, which is something Hatch would never do. And he says, what happens if they send me back to a different camp? I'm at camp, Club Med. I don't want to go to another camp like the Eastern Europeans, right? And the guy goes, oh, don't worry. They will send you back to the same one so they can prove a point. I would think, yeah, maybe they're going to beat the shit out of me and drag me in front of everybody and be like, this is what happens if you try to escape, right? I just don't get why Hatch would be all about these guys being like, oh, don't worry, we do this all the time. I would be like, fuck no, I need some more reassurance. You guys just go throw the potato secret note over the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why they skipped the entire recapturing scene, because how do you fucking even make that happen? What does he do? Just go to a German soldier, tap him on the soldier. Excuse me, I escaped from camp. Can I go back, please?
Yes. Hello, ha ha ha. I am not French. I'm American. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I felt so badly for the goalie too, because this poor kid has got to be pissed because here Hatch comes back. He's an idiot. He gets booted. And he's now stuck in the camp. And so this kid's arm is broken. He's not going to be able to go anywhere. They have no medical care, you would assume, although maybe they do here. But, you would assume there's no medical care. He has no way to set it properly, whether it's a clean break or not. And you can't imagine breaking your arm in the slats of a bed is going to result in a super clean break. And, probably this kid, he probably wound up dying because of it, because they gassed the people who were injured. So you break the kid's arm, you're signing his death warrant. And for who? For Hatch? I mean, I would have been like, fuck y'all, find a different way to get him on the team because you're not breaking my fucking arm.
But the whole team knows they're going to escape. The goalie goes, I can't even go. He's like, you're going to break my arm and I'm the only one stuck back here?
Right.
Hold on. Why? Why can't Hatch play forward? Why can't Hatch just be the trainer or play defense? He doesn't even know where to stand on a corner kick. This fucking poor kid is stuck in the camp now alone. Maybe there's going to be retribution from the guards. Who knows?
Well, in the end, the POWs can leave the German camp only to play the match. They are to be imprisoned again following the match. The resistance tunnelers break through into the dressing room at halftime. In an escape, Hatch leads. But the rest of the team, led by Russell Osman, saying, but we can win this, persuade him to continue the game despite being behind 4-1 at halftime. So, guys, we talked about the woman earlier, and I just remembered her name, Renee.
Of course.
We see her and her son. They're attending this match at Cologne Stadium. And all I'm thinking is Renee must have a death wish for this kid, because in this stadium, you have hundreds of German stormtroopers all armed with rifles, and you let a little French kid with a package in his hands breach security and run onto the pitch. There were several points in this movie, guys, where I was worried that someone was going to get shot. I was like, this kid's dead. And he just runs onto the pitch with the flowers. He's like, Hatch! Bonjour! What the fuck?
Well, again, terrible choice of a plan. Why don't you, before sending Hatch back, create some sort of signal? Like, if we wave our hand once, then it's going to be at halftime. If we wave it twice, it's after the game. Like, there's no reason for this kid to have to be the one that brings this message to Hatch and risk his life for the resistance. The kid should be the last choice. But I do say Michael Caine kind of saved the day. He's pretty classy. He takes it. He throws the flower. He smooths it over. And I mean, that was nice, but the resistance and the Nazis both, terrible communication, terrible follow through, and they're lucky that everybody didn't just wind up dead at the end of this movie.
What if the kid had shitty seats? What if he was in the upper deck and couldn't get down there? You don't have a backup plan? And Ash, I like that I've infected you with my questions about poor planning and what results in it, but I was totally caught by surprise. I'm like, okay, there's been a buildup. It's going to be this big match. It's going to be a close battle. We find out, that the officials are corrupt. And then it turns out they're just getting their ass kicked. They look terrible. They're down 4-0 immediately. Stallone, he looks like a guy who's never played a team sport. You don't need the corrupt officials for them to win. The Allied team is just terrible. It looks like a weekend down at the local park with these dudes running around slow. It is absolutely terrible. And if you have your officials bought, Gene, am I correct? FIFA's been doing this since 1904. Corrupt officials, you cannot overcome. Give a yellow card here, red card there, yellow card here. You don't need to break Pele's arm. Just give him a red card. He's gone.
Was it his arm that was injured or his chest? I could never figure that part out. He was just kind of gripping himself.
Yeah, he was just holding something.
Also, Gene, if you take a player out, can you reinsert them?
So here's the thing. They played 10 men instead of 11. So when Pele got injured, they didn't replace him. So he's technically still in play. He's just off the pitch. But that's a whole thing in itself. Like, you have the opportunity to substitute. Why don't you put somebody else on the pitch? What the fuck? Grab one of those Eastern Europeans. They've had several weeks to recover. A guy out there who's playing at 20% is better than nobody.
Well, and I know that this may be an unpopular opinion, and I apologize in advance to our commissioner, but I think there's some sports that translate to film better than others do, and I don't think that soccer is necessarily one that's able to make like a real impact on like film in a movie. I think that the field of play is just too big. I think the footwork is too intricate. You have to do all these close-ups. It's really hard to do like a wide shot, and I think that we're used to seeing other sports here in America that are like much more brutal sports. So like American football, you've got, we watch my dad, being here, we watch Remember the Titans. He loves that fucking movie. And like the crunching of the helmets and the pads and stuff, it becomes like super symphonic. And whether you like the sport or not, there's a lot of drama, or like the cracking of a baseball bat, like in that movie, The Natural, like it just has these sounds to it. Here, like the soccer, it just kind of read as kind of blah. And I love soccer, but I don't feel like they were able to really capture a lot of like apprehension or a lot of excitement during the game. Like I think they intended to, and it just kind of felt like a little bit of a letdown with the gameplay itself.
Ash, I do not think it's the sport, because I think football is beautiful to watch. I told you I've grown to really love it. If it happens because these are like dads playing rec soccer. This isn't what you see today. Sure. If you want to Google something, Google Cristiano Ronaldo. He goes in disguise in the streets of Madrid. It's like a hidden camera thing. And he's just dribbling a ball around the people in public. And he's got like a fat suit on, and he's got a mustache and beard. The things that the guys today can do and the speed of the game, it is not what we see on screen. So I think if you did this movie today, you could accurately capture. But back then, in the 40s, soccer was a joke. I could play goalie. I'm ready to go out there. I'm going to take Hatch's spot.
Yeah. Also, Ash, while you're Googling soccer research to prove that soccer can be beautiful on screen, Jonathan Brandis in Ladybugs.
Oh my God.
That was something to
Rodney Dangerfield.
I know we're complaining a lot about the soccer on the pitch. I want to file a complaint on behalf of the French resistance. These guys plan this escape. They get the van together. They close off a street. They tunnel in through the fucking French sewers in Nazi-occupied Paris, risking life, getting themselves filthy, digging with rudimentary implements to rescue perfect strangers. And they get through at halftime, and the players just say, no thanks. Like, I felt so bad for that Frenchman who poked his head triumphantly out through the locker room's tub. The water's flooding over his head. He's, in somebody else's like wash, basically. And he's like, come on, like, let's go. We did it. And he's told, you know what? We're behind 4-1 in this game, but we think we can win it. If I were those French guys, I'd crawl out of the fucking hole and kill every man in that locker room myself for wasting my goddamn time.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they choose to go back to the game rather than escape, it confirmed to me that they realized the camp's really not that bad.
It's better than France.
Imagine if in Shawshank Redemption, right? Andy, he had taken his little rock hammer and he had dug this giant tunnel for him and Red to escape. And then he goes to Red, come on, let's do it. We just got to crawl through 500 yards of shit and we're free. And Red was like, nah, Andy, that's okay. I'm just going to stay here in Shawshank. That's not only disrespectful, but it shows you that they're acknowledging that their life is pretty good.
Yeah, also about like, what about the bench players? I'd be like, fuck you guys, I'm not even in this game. Yes. Like, I'm leaving. See you later. Pele, gone, bye.
You played shorthanded to fucking let Pele come back in. I could have gotten out there and helped you. Come on, fuck you. I'm not being a team player now.
Well, the match officials are heavily biased toward the Germans, and the German team deliberately injures the Allied players. Hatch plays goalkeeper and makes excellent saves, including one last save from a penalty kick as time expires to deny the Germans the win, drawing the game 4-4. The POWs escape at the end of the game amid the confusion caused by the crowd storming the field after Hatch preserves the draw. So we mentioned Pele earlier in the pod. He's the big name in this, right? I imagine that they put his name on the movie poster. He's the reason why people bought tickets to see this, other than Stallone, Michael Caine, and Max von Sydow. And even if you know nothing about soccer, you know the name Pele. And he did a lot in this movie. One of the things he did is he designed all those soccer plays. So Big D, the soccer plays that didn't impress you and Ash, that did apparently impress Joe and the rest of England. He, designed all those. He played a corporal in the movie. And of course, because he's got to be some exotic thing, the only black guy in the movie. He learned to play by apparently juggling fruit in the streets of Trinidad. Everything Pele does in this movie is so fucking gimmicky. He tells these jokes that just don't land. His English is atrocious. You can tell that Pele was hired as a spectacle more than as an actor. One of the quotes that actually came out of this movie as they talked to the players and the stars is the players all said, all these actors just want to be football players and all the football players want to be actors. And I think that's what's wrong with this movie. I half expected to discover that Victory at one point was released in 3D. And there was just scenes of Pele just kicking balls at you. And that was like what the audience was there for.
Yeah, I mean, my dad kept, going, come on, Pele, because he was really excited to see him. And then he would go, oh. And then, come on, Pele. And then it was, oh. And I just think it was a huge letdown because the dude, I mean, I do think he was an incredible player. And it was just kind of a waste. I mean, they did have the one cool moment in slow-mo. And I know that we hated, Big D and I, because Gene didn't even notice, apparently, the slow-mo and Young Guns a few weeks ago because he has, such a love for that movie. But, we kind of hated it. I was like, oh my God, the slow-mo was ridiculous. But here, I thought the slow-mo worked a lot better and it was kind of cool.
So Ash, in Young Guns, did they show the murder of Dirty Steve 3 times in slow-mo? They show Pele slow motion bicycle kick. Slow motion bicycle kick. Slow motion bicycle kick. I didn't need to see it 3 times. I get it. I just watched it. But I know this is going to be sacrilegious, but I just don't think that Pele was that good. I really don't. I'm watching football today, and I think the players are 10 times better, but it's not only Pele. I think Babe Ruth, I think he'd make the major leagues, but I don't think he's going to be the greatest player ever. There's just some mystique of the guys from earlier days. Today, you have all the technology that's come out. You have nutrition, you have supplements, you have specialized year-round training. There is no off-season. These guys back in the day used to have like some part-time job. You could be the quarterback of the Baltimore Colts and you're going to go out and be a painter in the off-season. It was different back then. If you look at let's say Cam Newton today, he's 6'5", 250 pounds. That's bigger than all the linemen back in the 50s and 60s.
Did you see Cam Newton today?
Oh, it looked good. Looked real good.
Listen, I would literally, Big D, I'm glad you brought Cam Newton up because, guys, Cam Newton today, starting for the Patriots, my God, I was watching this and I was thinking, if this man and I were in a hallway, he had nowhere to go but straight through me. All my job was to tackle him. I would die. He would fucking kill me. And I think you're absolutely right, Big D, that there's no comparison. Although I will say in Pele's defense, he's like 40 years old in this movie. His prime was in the 50s and 60s. So this is 20 years past his prime, poor guy.
Well, I don't know about any of that. I just know that apparently there was some supplement in the 1940s that allowed Sylvester Stallone to become a major league goalie all of a sudden when he didn't even know how to play the game at the beginning of the movie, because all of a sudden he becomes like this soccer prodigy, blocking everything, totally kicking ass. And I just didn't buy Stallone as a soccer player. I think he, is built more like a rugby or an American football player. And Stallone just looked ridiculous. It was just to put him there and give him a moment.
There's a point where he makes a save, he picks up the ball and throws it directly in the face of one of the German players. I was screaming for the officials. Where's the red card? Where is the red card? Can he do whatever he wants? He just starts punching people, throwing elbows. It's less soccer, more rugby.
The soccer match is an absolute shit show, but the music made you want to believe, you wanted to shout, Victoire. And that's largely because of composer Bill Conti. So this is the guy who scored Rocky. He also did The Right Stuff, one of my favorite childhood movies. Someone please commission it. He also did James Bond's For Your Eyes Only. He did the theme song to Dynasty and the theme song for American Gladiators. So you pair that with the crowd singing La Marseillaise, and you have a really uplifting and emotional moment.
I agree. I thought that actually the score in the soccer game was the best parts of the movie. It actually made me feel a lot more than anything that was happening on screen. So I was appreciative it was there because I think this part of the movie would have completely fallen flat without the way that it was scored.
And as we get that uplifting moment, the crowd suddenly starts fucking rushing the field. You're in Nazi-occupied France. The Allies just upset the German national team in front of everybody. It's crowded. There are armed German stormtroopers everywhere. People are rushing the field. There are scenes where they're grabbing the soldiers' rifles. They're bursting through the gates. This would be a bloodbath. I was super worried, once again, that all these happy French people were about to get mowed down by guns, but I forgot these are the sweetest Germans in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off where you have Major Karl von Steiner. The German, he's like, yeah, woo, the Allied. I don't think the Nazis are going to take too kindly to that, but it made me wonder, why didn't the Allied troops use this technique on Omaha Beach for the DJ invasion? We didn't need Saving Private Ryan, where everybody's trying to breach the wire they just have to show up dressed as French soccer fans and just run out in the field with their hands up singing. The Germans wouldn't shoot them, and the war could have been over.
I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't shoot a French soccer fan. If a mob of French were running at me, I would just take off all my clothes and embrace it.
Well, I do think that one thing that this movie gets correct is the importance of sports when life is really fucking shitty. Like, I think that is something that we forget until we're going through an incredibly difficult time. And I went on kind of a rant because I'd had a little too much to drink a couple weeks ago on Shappy Hour about New Orleans and about how much I love New Orleans, and was talking about Hurricane Katrina. But, Katrina was life altering for everybody that was there, obviously 15 years ago. I mean, and it shattered so much of just our general social structure. And when the Dome reopened in 2006, and there was that amazing pre-show performance with Green Day and with U2, like, I was there in the Dome, and like, that was the first time life felt normal again, was when the Saints came out on the field and they played their fucking asses off that night. And it was amazing. And sports have a way of, whether it's football, whether it's, soccer, whether it's baseball, whatever it is, it has a way of bringing people together and making them feel not so alone. And that's what this movie shows, is you've got all of these browbeaten French citizens sitting in the stadium. And when they got that first goal, when the Allies scored that first goal, like, that was a moment when I got kind of chills, when they all screamed and started applauding, and when they start singing, and when they're all chanting victoire, victoire, all constantly, you can feel that, and you can feel the effect of it. And I know we're joking about them all running out on the field, but like, that's what inspires people to do fucking crazy things to help others, is when they've all come together in that moment. And so, yes, the Nazis probably would have mowed them all down with guns, but I understand why they did that, because they felt empowered, because they were together and sharing in nationalism. And sports during this time period, I could see it having that level of import to the people sitting in that stadium.
Yeah, Ash, I can agree with you. As a New Yorker, when September 11th happened, I remember it was like, when is it okay to kind of go back to life? And the big moment was, I think, baseball was when the Yankees and the Mets started back up, and President Bush came out and threw out the first pitch, and all the players had their hats on for the NYPD and the fire department. So yeah, I think sports, it's a distraction from all the other shit that we fight about. We can have different political views, but you know what? If I'm in New Orleans, I'm a Saint fan. I don't care. And that's one of the few things that brings us together.
Yeah, I definitely was impacted today with soccer returning in full, with football being on. I mean, I don't normally spend a Sunday watching that much sport, but it was just kind of nice to just sit back and just like watching a movie, except so much more of a community impact. And it was really, really great to see. I've been kind of emotional ever since seeing Arsenal take the pitch and seeing the Cardinals on today. It's been fantastic. Well, that brings us to the hardest part of every Shat the Movies podcast, which is the wipe score. The wipe score is our way of telling you, the listener, how many wipes the movie would take to get off your respective bums. So a 5-wipe movie is awful. It's like digging through the sewers of Paris only to be told to go home. And 0 wipes is a thing of beauty, a thing of perfection. It's a 3-time slow motion Pele bicycle kick into the net. Big D, we'll start with you. How many wipes would you give Escape to Victory?
So in the end, I think most of the movie is laughable. And it was like a slow rolling crash. I could just see where it was going to go, but I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And this plan is ridiculous, but I was like, I have to see how this unravels. It would be like an Ocean 11s with the guys in Dumb and Dumber making the plan. I'd be like, shit, I got to see how this all goes down, It's supposed to be a great escape movie, but the guys don't even want to escape. They turn down the opportunity to escape, and they go back. So considering the way that the Germans treated the people in the camp and the way it's not realistic, it's Club Med, but I surprisingly found myself engaged. And at 2 hours, I'm normally like, oh, let's get this movie over with. This one at the end, I was like, okay, I feel good. I see what it was. It was a Hollywood version trying to pick up people and try to promote sports. And it wasn't realistic, but I surprisingly kind of liked it. So I think it is right in the middle, 2.5 wipes. There's far worse movies, far better ones, but I just couldn't stop watching.
How about you, Ash?
Yeah, this movie isn't horrible. I know that I shit on some of it.
Ringing endorsement there.
It's not a horrible movie. It has some fun parts. It has some great acting. As Gene, you pointed out, the score is utterly incredible. But the story, it's kind of a mess, you guys. It's a decent film. It's a pretty cool idea. And so I didn't hate it. I thought Sylvester Stallone looked really good. I thought Michael Caine was great. I did feel that Max von Sydow was horribly underused because he was not really in it a lot. And I think they could have done more with him. But with all that being said, I think it's a less than average movie, but I don't think it's a terrible movie. So I'm going with a little bit worse than average of a 3-wipe score.
I completely agree, Ash. Joe said in his commission that the English are very fond of this movie, or at least a dozen of them are. And I'm sort of confused by that because Escape to Victory isn't particularly good at showing good soccer, as you astutely pointed out. Most of the plays are just a bunch of slide tackles and like gimmicky juggling. The English officers are sort of the villains in this movie. Like the English colonel is just kind of like trying to shit on everything. And it spends a lot of time glorifying an asshole American being played by Sylvester Stallone. Like Hatch is not likable in any way. On the upside, the score is classic. Max von Sydow is a joy, and Michael Caine is perfect for his role, except for the whole playing soccer part. I was surprised when I was like, oh shit, he's playing too? I thought captain was just an honorary title they just bestowed upon him. I didn't realize that he was actually going to take to the pitch. That part's utterly unbelievable. So with those Shat scores, my 3 wipes, Ash's 3 wipes, and Big D's 2.5 wipes, that brings us to an average of 2.83 repeating wipes for Escape to Victory.
Okay, just don't send the hate mail, okay? This is one of the movies that we, in the rankings, you'll understand. If Blade Runner fans, please don't send hate mail. So with a score of 2.83 repeating, that puts it slightly better than Blade Runner and ridiculous. Slightly worse than Big.
Okay. The system does not work anymore if this movie is slightly better than Blade Runner. And I know that you guys didn't like it. I'm going to speak on behalf of Carrie and all the right people out there who love Blade Runner, including myself. That is fucking crazy, you guys. This movie is not better than Blade Runner.
So listen, I know that was early on. That was one of our early reviews. So if we ever need a redo, that is the movie, because I think my view on it would be different today.
See, I think Blade Runner is kind of like spending time with grandma sometimes, though, where it's like you understand that it's important quality time that you're spending. You understand that she was an important person in your life, and you understand that all those minutes are precious. But at the same time, sometimes you're just tired of drinking peach nectar and fucking eating candy that's going to cut your mouth. You want to go do something fun. That's my take on Blade Runner. Blade Runner is my grandma.
Apparently my grandmother is a lot more fun than yours is, because if this is spending time with grandma, it's a great fucking time, but it's fine. We could do a redo one day. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I'm willing to do it.
Well, there you have it, Joe. There's your score for Escape to Victory and a mini review of Blade Runner. I hope you enjoyed it. Big D, we do have a voicemail this week. So if anybody would like to call in and give us their views on the movies that we've reviewed or anything that we have coming up, or just say hello, you can call us at 914-719-SHAT. And I believe this week's voicemail is from Mark the Pharmacist.
Hey guys, it's Mark the Pharmacist, and I'm calling concerning Fear and Loathing in Vegas. At approximately 17:06, one of y'all farted. Now, I'm not sure who it was, but my bet is on Gene. So the jig's up. Let us know. Thanks a lot. You guys are doing a great job, and I don't know, quit pulling each other's fingers. Thanks. Bye.
I have a leather chair, guys. It's a leather chair. That's all it is, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
I've been caught farting before, but that was when I had the plastic, like the hard seat. I now have a cushion. So if it was me, I'd be shocked. That leaves ash.
It was not me. I don't do that.
Ash hasn't farted since 87.
I am a Southern lady. I don't do that.
Well, I'm going to
grab your breasts at us. What was that?
No, I touched my chest up here.
Oh, okay.
What?
Well, I'm going to pull a Perry Mason. I'm going to go back and listen to the tapes, and I can break out by track. So I will report back who the flatulator was. I will promise you that.
All right. Thank you, Mark, so much for calling in and apparently calling me out. But and I hope, Big D, you find the truth and exonerate me in this matter. But if you guys would like to call in, once again, that number is 914-719-SHAT, or you can write to us at hosts@shatontv.com. We'd love to hear from you. Big D, what's the next movie we have coming up?
So the next movie is commissioned by Chris T, and it tells the story of rock-loving teens and aspiring musicians, Hawk, Lex, Trip, and Jam, who can't wait to see their favorite band, Kiss, perform at the upcoming concert. However, when Jam's pious mother finds the tickets to the event, she incinerates them, leaving the boys desperate for a way to see the show. In their attempt to see Kiss, the lads endure misunderstandings, humiliation, and violence, all to see their beloved idols. It was commissioned by Chris T, came out in August of 99, and I've never seen this movie.
Oh, it's Edward Furlong. I had a big crush on him growing up.
Oh, I can't take another one after you drooling all over Stallone. His little waist and his shoulders.
Oh, whatever. You know he looked good.
His eyes. It's just...
Well, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Chris. And thanks, everyone who has commissioned a film from Shat the Movies. We really, really do appreciate it. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, hosts@shatthemovies.com. You can also support us by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, completing a free anonymous survey to help attract advertisers, buying our merch, or commissioning your own movie. Find information on all of that by visiting our website, shatthemovies.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find that information on our website, shatontv.com. Wherever fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by iTunes, please leave a review. That helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert, Ashley Schlafly, and the King Bee, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
It's 1978.
Disco's dead! Those jeans are so tight. I can see your
It's the last day of school.
Yes.
This is better than the first time I got to finger a chick, man.
And to celebrate,
The night is young.
4 friends are busting loose and hitting the highway.
I'm making it. Oh, man. Give me this pizza.
No more! No more!
It's going to be the most repulsive, offensive,
I've never heard a girl blow ass before.
vile, and certainly the most momentous time of their lives.
You better have something really sinful for me this time, son.
I just lost my virginity in a confessional booth!
In Detroit Rock City, they're young, dumb,
Look at him. He's a moron.
and full of
I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm sure there's more where that came from, right?
Detroit Rock City.
It's a girl walking along the side of the highway. We should pull over and help her out. I mean, they make scary movies that start out like that.
Hey, but they make porno movies that start out like that too, man.